Welcome to the Explainer. If you've ever tried to sit down and read a mutual fund prospectus, you know exactly how daunting it can be. It's like a giant wall of text, a sea of percentages, and honestly, enough legal jargon to make your head spin. But hidden inside those pages is the vital information you absolutely need to make informed financial decisions. So today, we're taking a fascinating document, an 18-page draft scheme information document from ICICI Prudential, and we're going to do something a little different. We are unboxing it. We're going to sift through all the legalities and find out exactly what makes their new balanced hybrid fund tick.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to break this regulatory jargon down into 5 really digestible chapters. Section 1, Decoding the Hybrid Fund. Section 2, the Portfolio Asset Allocation. Section 3, Rules of the Game. Section 4, Exploring the Exit Loads. And finally, Section 5, Reading the Risk-O-Meter.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Decoding the Hybrid Fund. What is inside the blueprint? So ask yourself, what exactly is hiding inside this dense 18-page mutual fund draft document? Well, think of it not as some dry legal contract, but as a product blueprint. Just like an architect wouldn't build a house without a schematic, a mutual fund company doesn't launch a fund without laying out exactly what they're building. Now, it is totally normal for these filings to look incredibly intimidating to the everyday retail investor. The regulator, SEBI, requires a massive amount of disclosure. But once we peel back those layers of mandatory compliance text, the core purpose of the financial product is usually pretty straightforward.
Case in point, here's the foundational definition ripped straight from the very first page of the document. This is an open-ended balance scheme. Now, open-ended just means you can buy or sell units on an ongoing basis. But the absolutely crucial part is that it invests only in equity and debt instruments. It's like a classic two-engine vehicle, right? One engine is powered by equity, stocks, and company ownership, while the other engine is powered by debt, like bonds and fixed income. And notice that strict boundary there. Absolutely no arbitrage is permitted. They aren't looking for complex pricing loopholes. They're sticking to traditional fundamental investing.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Portfolio Asset Allocation, the engine of the fund.
And this brilliantly illustrates how those two engines actually work together. We know it's a two-engine vehicle, but how much power goes to each one? Well, this is where we look under the hood at the portfolio asset allocation, literally how your money is divided up and deployed into the market. The fund managers are legally bound to perform a balancing act within very strict parameters. 40 to 60% of the total assets must go to equity and equity-related instruments. At the exact same time, another 40 to 60% has to be allocated to debt and money market instruments. So, depending on market conditions, the managers have the flexibility to tilt the scale. They might push up to 60% in equity during a bull run, or, retreat down to 40% when things get choppy, shifting that weight over to safer debt instruments. But they can never, ever cross those boundaries.
Now, when you're analyzing a fund strategy, knowing what a fund won't do is honestly just as important as knowing what it will do. The document outlines a very specific negative list. Basically, this fund will not engage in short selling, so they're not betting against the market. As we just mentioned, absolutely no arbitrage positions are allowed. And finally, no credit default swaps, which are these complex financial derivatives usually associated with much higher risk profiles. By laying out these regulatory boundaries, the blueprint promises a very traditional, straightforward investment approach.
All right, Section 3, Rules of the Game, Timelines and Entry Barriers. All this high-level strategy is fantastic, but what does this mean practically for you, the potential unit holder? How do you get in, how do you track it, and how do you get out? Often, people just assume that professionally managed, structured financial products need a massive amount of upfront capital. But look at this number. The minimum application amount to enter this fund during the new fund offer, or for subsequent switch-ins, is a surprisingly low 500 rupees. Literally just 500 rupees. It really highlights how incredibly accessible this balanced hybrid fund is designed to be for the everyday retail investor.
Okay, so once you're in, you need to know the timeline for your liquidity, meaning how and when can you track your value and actually access your money. Well, the document makes a really firm liquidity promise. Every single business day, by 11 p.m., the net asset value, or NAV, is calculated and prominently disclosed online. If you decide you want your money back, the fund promises to dispatch your redemption proceeds within 3 business days. And if you've opted for the income distribution cum capital withdrawal option, which is basically payouts from the fund, those warrants are dispatched within 7 business days of the record date. It's a highly structured, super transparent timeline.
So, who exactly is driving this two-engine vehicle?
The document lists the key managers behind the wheel, and you've got a very experienced team leading the charge here, including Manish Banthia and Akhil Kakar. But I really want to highlight Rohan Chutki. He brings 17 years of experience to the table, backed by an incredibly impressive academic foundation. We're talking a B.Tech from IIT Madras, an MBA from IIM Lucknow, and a master's in finance from the London Business School. It's always reassuring to know the exact credentials of the folks making those big 40 to 60% allocation decisions with your hard-earned money.
Let's transition to Section 4, exploring the exit loads, connecting to your wallet.
Now, what's really interesting here is how this instantly simplifies all that complex regulatory text regarding withdrawal penalties. In the mutual fund world, leaving early almost always comes with a fee called an exit load. Let's break down this matrix. If you're within your first year of investing, you actually get a buffer. You can redeem up to 30% of your units with absolutely zero penalty, a nil exit load. But if you withdraw more than that 30% limit within the first year, you're going to be hit with a 1% charge on the applicable NAV for those excess units. Here's the great news, though. Once you hold the fund for more than 1 year, you can redeem any amount you want without facing any exit load at all. So it's a structure clearly designed to encourage at least a medium-term commitment.
Which brings us to our final chapter. Section 5. Reading the Riskometer. The reality check.
This is arguably the most crucial step of our whole unboxing journey today. It is time for a reality check regarding the inherent volatility and risks of this specific financial product. Because, while balanced hybrid sounds very safe and stable, the actual document tells a slightly different story. I want to read you this direct quote straight from the source material. It explicitly states, "The investment portfolio of the scheme would reflect moderate to very high volatility in its equity and equity-related investments." They're not sugarcoating this at all. They're putting it in black and white, that the equity side of that engine is fully expected to experience real market turbulence.
Every single mutual fund document has to include a riskometer, and you can see a really stark contrast here. For the fund's benchmark index, that's the CRISIL Hybrid 50/50 Moderate Index, the risk hovers around moderately high to high, but look at the actual scheme risk. Based on internal assessments of this specific scheme's characteristics, the needle for the ICICI Prudential Balanced Hybrid Fund is pushed all the way over deep into the red, very high risk category.
So what does this all mean for you? The crucial takeaway is this. Just because a fund is labeled balanced doesn't mean it's immune to wild market swings. We have unboxed the blueprint, we've looked at the 40 to 60 allocations, reviewed the rules, and analyzed the costs. But the absolute final piece of the puzzle is you. Does your personal risk appetite actually align with the dynamic, very high-risk structure of this balanced hybrid fund? Take a hard look at your own portfolio and ask yourself if this tool is actually the right fit for your financial journey. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.